Hello guys, welcome to this football index related video. Um, this video and probably future videos if I make one is going to be based on my football index journey and what sort of strategies, methods and observations I go through when I make trades, and it's more about the thought process of each and every trade I try to make on the index to be sort of a really good trade. It is difficult usually to sort of find that really amazing trade to get your 100% or 1000% return on investment, but I think the important thing here in these type of videos I'm going to make is the fact that the portfolio amount right here is considerably low compared to so many other traders you see on this platform. I think a lot of traders have got thousands of pounds in their accounts, in their portfolios, and most of them are chasing for the dividends and buying players based on the yields which they can get throughout the whole season, and hence you can see so many PB favourites are getting the deserved rises. They have either gone from unsuitable to suitable styles, either with new managers or with just new changes in the squad, or even the players who used to be dominant in the team with PBs have left to some other clubs. So you could potentially make our chances from those type of players. Anyway, without talking much about other type of strategies, my type is a mixture of all, but I like to go for players which are really undervalued, players which haven't got the really sort of amazing rises, or when you're comparing with the potential value, you're comparing with other players, which is one of the key tools of trading, in my opinion, is comparative analysis, which is comparing players with similar attributes and similar positions in their teams, teams which are quite similar in terms of results, or even in terms of play style, and finding that sort of similarity between players could be in terms of performance, which I sort of just explained with the examples, or it could be in terms of media buzz. So, for example, right here in front of us, we can find Daniel James, who has just moved to United, of course, from Swansea, and he's been having such an amazing rise. If you order one of those traders in this region, which is amazing really, and props to you for that, to stick with him when he was probably in this range and was going up and suddenly dropping at this point, because obviously he joined Man United then, and we all thought that would be it, but the media and the love for Daniel James from the media perspective has proved us otherwise. But yeah, as you can see, this is sort of the types of rises every trader looks forward to, and yeah, it's sort of finding that type of players. But with my portfolio, which I'll show in a second, is more about finding those undervalued players. So, for example, of Daniel James, if you were that person who bought him either at the IPO times or even anywhere around the £1 or £1.50 region, to be slightly brave, because at that point in time in April, May, he was performing good. About the same time he was in a team like Swansea, where you could not expect him to even get promoted, but a lot of people were buying because they expected some sort of transfer rumour to happen. Obviously it was sort of his breakout season, and fair play for those whose trading strategies have sort of paid off with that kind of investment. So that was sort of an example of how you could find players who are really undervalued and turn out to be, the deserved values, or players are adding more and more value with the change of teams, change in media appeal, and a lot of them are buying with the hopes of performances as well, which is the reason why he's at the price value that he is. And yeah, um, that's the sort of strategy I like to go for. Obviously, there's always risk attached to any type of player you're going for, and so I would recommend that you should really diversify your portfolio and not go for all of your money on one player, even if that player seems so promising and so undervalued that you know he is going to be the next big thing. And so, here's my portfolio, which wouldn't look that great on the eye for a lot of traders, but at the same time, it is something which I felt as this area of the market. As you can see, a lot of these players are below a pound range. And looking at the value of my portfolio, which is obviously nearing £800 as of now, that I like to have players not only for kappa but future dividends reasoning as well. So there's a lot of examples you could see here for future dividends. Pasalic could be one example. Oliver Torres potentially, Spanish player who's going to play a centre mid in Seville. Teams like Seville and Valencia are really known for having that centre midfielder players with their sort of systems they have under their managers, that these centre mids can sort of have really high scores in the future probably. And it goes to a lot of these players, as you can see one by one, in this list I have, in this portfolio I have. We're gonna ignore Messi for a bit there, because that is a living example of my mistake in terms of not diversifying my portfolio. As you can see, in terms of the amount of sort of the percentage of my portfolio as assigned to Messi is ridiculously high, which I'll show in my spreadsheet in a second as well. And yeah, it is there to remind me that I need to diversify, and I need to not necessarily go big for a lot of these players. I'm sure a lot of these players are going to rise up to ludicrous amounts. They could be the next big things in the future. If not the upcoming season, then surely the season after that. And yeah, you need to sort of evaluate the risks attached to these type of players as well, because a market like Football Index is quite ruthless when it comes to people realizing that, oh, I bought this player for a certain value, and I realized that this player has no longer returning that sort of 10 or 20% of yields you would expect if you're buying him for PB or MB purposes. And a lot of times they go down as quick as they've gone up. And it's about finding the right strategy. Like I said earlier, in terms of these players, you could sit on them for months, for years, and they could be amazing values. Obviously, we had a share split this year, which is the reason why they look really, really affordable in terms of having more huge amounts of futures on them. But if you were to compare them with their prices pre-share splits, which the traders on the platform who have been there before the share split would sort of know in terms of how appealing they look in terms of value. But the the main point is not to sort of compare if you're one of those traders who've been in the platform for the longest, because a lot of new users are going to come in the platform and see, oh, the highest player is Neymar, and Neymar as of now is at £7.57, and that is something which not a lot of people can afford. And I'm sure a lot of people who are coming to the platform are going to have this kind of range of their capital invested, or even way lower than that. So this is sort of an example of, hey, you can find valuable players, you can find players at an affordable price ranges, and you shouldn't be buying every player in this price range, but you should be buying players who you feel are undervalued, and with performances in the upcoming season, they can have a pretty good return from their performances. It could be even capital appreciation itself. A lot of times players get high PB scores but not win PB, and if you see a sort of a form being attached to them in terms of being so consistent with their PB scores in and around the high ranges of the index, then you would tend to buy those kind of players, and they get an amazing amount of capital appreciation as well. So it's not just dividends. That's not the main focus. It's even the capital appreciation along the ride of potentially getting a lot of dividends from these type of players. And so, yeah, that's basically my thinking behind these players. A lot of them, I mean, nearly all of them on my index, except for Messi, of course, are below 25 or 25 years of age. This is sort of, I mean, a lot of people will go for the youth, and I have got a few players. If you can see, Justin Clivewood, one of them. You can see Marcus Thuram being one of them, and even Elvis, who is pretty young as well. I think he's 20, 21 years of age. Oscar Rodriguez, who's 20, 21-ish. He's 198. So yeah, I've got these players who are considerably young, but at the same time are in decent enough teams, or in teams where they can perform week in, week out, and really either impress the traders who are stats driven or love PB, or even players who even traders who love to buy players who are going to be the next big thing. That's always the big obsession when it comes to buying players on the index, and that's the sort of mentality I go with, keeping all of those elements in mind. And as you can see, there's a decent amount of players that managed to get through. So yeah, that's sort of the rationale when it comes to obtaining these players. And yeah, my my portfolio has jumped a bit up as we're speaking. Probably one of the players have gone up a penny. So yeah, we've managed to hit the 800 mark, which is brilliant. So yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of my type of strategy when I look forward to buy these players. And I'm sure you can find a lot of players who you think are really undervalued, or players who you think that a lot of traders would buy thinking they're undervalued. Both of them work in a really similar way, even though they've got like their differences as well, because the players who you would think that a lot of traders are thinking which are undervalued are gonna be overvalued sooner than later, because a lot of traders are getting their attentions on them, and a lot of traders are going to buy in excessive amounts of futures, which will inversely put the players' prices up quicker than you would imagine. A lot of players we're seeing on the market, and a lot of examples you can see from the usual risers on a daily basis and on a weekly basis. So yeah, as sort of my perspective in terms of the players I get on the index, and yeah, that's the sort of video I want to make out. So make it out there for those who are trying to buy these players. And I could make more videos of these in the future where I can explain my journey each and every month, because I'm that sort of trader who keeps their players for a few weeks or couple of months, depending on how the market sees the player or how the player itself is performing. So, for example, for the sake of this video's example, you could see Rob Holding, who currently is at 85p, and a lot of people are seeing him as who could replace the current centre halves at Arsenal if he's back to fitness, if he's back to form, and possibly be the one who can play consistently for Arsenal. We all have seen him pre-injury how he had a potential within him to play well for Arsenal, and a lot of those traders are going to think that 85p is undervalued because he's going to play consistently, potentially get the England call-up, which is sort of ambitious with a player like him, but at the same time, if you're holding him for the long run, a lot of people are going to jump on the ship as early as possible. So it's a combination of making the most out of that, jumping on the ship, people jumping on the ship, or even you having that gut feeling that, you know what, he could actually make it through, who knows. And this 85 pence could even go as high as 2-3 quid if he turned out to be the player that people expect him to be. So with regards to this example, I could be selling him in a few weeks' time, probably before the first game, probably before a fixture, if I feel like he is either not performing to the level I think of in terms of getting a few starts, making a fair few impressions in the eyes of traders, in the eyes of football fans, and if he doesn't have that improvement in terms of the perception of those fans, then I would probably sell him. I wouldn't want to sell any of these players because, obviously they're the ones for the long run, but at the same time I'm working with a very limited amount of budget, and so it's important to sell them and eventually with this value pre-commission, obviously, to move on to players who can be that sort of next big thing in terms of making that step from either reserves to first team, or even moving into a new club, improving that impression, and getting on form, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, I did not expect this video to turn out to be so long. As I can see on the time frame, it's nearly 19 minutes. So I think I'm going to end it there. If you really enjoy this kind of content, I could go on and on talking about different types of things on the index. If you are not sort of fancying this kind of elaborate talk in terms of my strategies, or strategies which could be used in terms of the types of players I go for, you could let me know in the comments or any sort of feedback methods. And yeah, I'll probably end my video there. If you've made it all the way through to 20 minutes, thank you so much for watching this, and hopefully if I get a decent amount of feedback and a decent amount of you know, comments or any of that sort, then I'll definitely be making more of these. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you probably, hopefully, in the next video. Goodbye.